on News X World and get your insights. Moving ahead now, viewers, President Trump's explanation for the capture of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela has sparked polarizing reactions so far. Some have even questioned the legality of such an operation. Under the U.S. Constitution, Congress holds the power to declare war, while the President serves as Commander-in-Chief. Historically, presidents from both parties have carried out limited military actions without prior congressional approval, citing national interest. However, officials say that lawmakers were not informed before Saturday's operation, raising concerns about oversight and legality. International law generally prohibits the use of force in another country, except in narrowly defined situations such as self-defense or with approval with the United Nations Security Council. Experts say criminal activity, including drug trafficking and gang operations, does not meet the threshold of an armed conflict that would justify military intervention. Past U.S. operations such as the capture of Panamanian leader Manuel Noriega or the extradition of Honduras's former president Juan Orlando Hernandez were carried out under different legal frameworks and often with local consent, conditions not present in Venezuela. The Justice Department had sought military assistance to apprehend Maduro and several others indicted in New York on charges ranging from terrorism to drugs and weapons trafficking. While the administration frames the operation as a law enforcement mission, President Trump also stated plans to run Venezuela temporarily to protect U.S. interests. Legal analysts say this dual rationale has muddled the legal case, making it unclear how the action fits within international law. Attorney General Pam Bondi emphasized that the defendants will face U.S. courts, but experts say meaningful accountability for the operation under international law is unlikely due to limited enforcement mechanisms. The episode highlights the complex intersection of U.S. domestic law, international norms, and foreign policy, and is likely to fuel debate in Washington among allies and across the international community about the legal and political limits of American military action. All right, my colleague Thomas Potters continues to remain with us. Thomas, what are some of the inputs that we are getting from our team in the newsroom as far as the reactions that are coming in? We know that the U.S. itself is divided. Some of the Democrats and conservative Republicans have also opposed the actions. But of course, most other Republican members have said that it is what had been under plan, and they have gone on to justify. Talk to us about these different statements that are coming in, and probably also some differing reactions as far as the world leaders go.
Of course, Kriti, when it comes to the American public, a recent CBS poll has said that 70% of the American public do not agree with the United States' operations in Venezuela that have just happened. And in terms of the lawmakers, we've seen bipartisan opposition to this operation. Of course, Congress, as you have mentioned, usually designates the power to go to war. Donald Trump has once again not gone to Congress and has made that executive decision himself in order to take those international orders. Now, of course, the Democrats are voicing their concern. They think that this sets a dangerous international precedent when it comes to being involved in these foreign wars. And as Pam Bondi said, there is unlikely to be any repercussions due to the current state of the United Nations and the power that it holds in intercepting things like this. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, the United Nations, of course, is in the same city as where Maduro is even being held. They have voiced concern and opposition to these operations. And when it comes to world leaders, you have the likes of the United Kingdom, who have said that there's going to be no tears shed over the loss of Maduro, but have also raised concerns when it comes to the way that the US has carried out these operations. Russia has expressed alarm in particular, calling Maduro's government legitimate and credible, and have, of course, raised their concerns. Same thing with China, who are the largest buyer of Venezuelan oil prior to these events. So of course, this remains a hugely polarizing topic. Some Venezuelans are rejoicing, others widely concerned about that power vacuum now that the United States is holding and what's going to happen next.
All right, thanks, Tom. But let's take that question to Saul Satka, who's a political commentator now joining us from Tel Aviv. Saul, thank you for joining us. Would you say that these opposing reactions that are coming in from different parts of the world and from within the US, and particularly from world leaders, is what is actually bolstering Trump from carrying out this campaign in Venezuela?
No, it's not limiting him at all. On the contrary, what I would suggest is that he saw a play. So on the one hand, this is part of a vast geopolitical game. The fact that the United States will now be essentially taking control of the management of Venezuela's vast oil reserves, which are triple or even 4 times what the US has itself, and will then gradually over a period of years ramp it up to outstrip the production of many other countries, will effectively turn Russian oil into a wasted asset. The Russians will no longer be able to export their products, and that's their entire government income. That will essentially have major implications for the Russian war in Ukraine. At the same time, will have implications for the situation with China that America faces. The actions inside the United States also benefit Trump in the sense that he has now managed to force the Democrats to come out against these strikes on the narrow legal international law terms that you have been discussing with your previous guests, which, while interesting, have very little impact on the American public. If you'll recall, approximately 25 to 30% of Venezuelans no longer live in Venezuela. They fled the regime. And while I no doubt there are pockets
that's from our colleague from the newsroom here.
Yeah, in Venezuela, there's no doubt some support. The clients who are benefiting from the system, the vast majority of Venezuelans, as we are seeing from the videos coming out of people shouting joyfully from their windows at each other, are very happy that Maduro has been arrested and taken away. And how it turns in a couple of years, whether there'll be an insurgency against the American control is unknown.
But how much can these surveys actually be trusted? We don't know what the sample size is. We don't know who are the people who have been questioned and how many of these are pro-Trump or against Trump or pro-Maduro and anti-Maduro. So I can't purely go on based on some surveys that some includes, I don't know how many people with what kind of affiliations, you know.
I haven't seen any surveys from inside Venezuela. My assumption is based on the fact that the country has lost 80% of its GDP during the Chavez-Maduro era and 25% of its population, that most of the people that stay opposed him, whether they are open to say it or not. They might fear reprisals. Whereas in America, Trump has played a blinder on his opposition. And you have to see Kamala Harris and people like Bernie Sanders coming out against the raid, even though the raid would probably be a 80-20 or even 90-10 issue for the American public. They have to do that because it's part of their essential basic political philosophy that you don't do this kind of thing. And yet at the same time, it's something that will be very unpopular with the American people. So Trump wins on both counts, and he's also setting up the geopolitical great game in his favor over the next couple of years.
All right.
As well.
Now, stay on with me, Paul. Beg your pardon, Saul. I request you to give your opinion as we proceed ahead as well. Viewers, U.S. Defense